Hi, I'm Michael McPadden from the Tango API team with another tutorial for Tango's Mobile Procurement REST API, also known as ModProc for short. In this video, I'll guide you through how to create and submit an order request to port an existing service asset, including the service number, from one carrier to another carrier. This type of order request uses the port number transaction type. But before I jump into the specifics of a port number order, I just want to quickly review the 4 basic steps for creating any type of order request. Authentication is the verification that the user making the API call is actually who they claim to be. Users are authenticated with every API call. In this API, request headers are primarily used to refine context. Common examples include executing a transaction on behalf of another user, who is sometimes known as the quote-unquote actor, or using certain headers to tag a single call or group of related calls with a unique identifier that can be used to easily locate these calls in a server activity log file. For a detailed overview of what headers are available and how they can be used, please check out our video library for the video entitled Request Headers. The request body, written in JSON, is the heart of the order request. It contains all of the data needed by the source system to process your order. In a minute, I'll show you how to assemble that JSON. The final aspect of an order request is indicating whether you want to get back an order confirmation or if you're actually submitting this request for processing. Typically, you'll want to obtain a confirmation before submitting your order. As you'll see, an order confirmation returns all of the IDs passed in with the request body JSON, along with human-readable data that fully describes what is referenced by those IDs, such as the device name, vendor, price, etc. This is very useful for API consumers who want to present the order request back to their end user so that they can verify it for accuracy. When an order is submitted, if successful, the API will return an HTTP status code of 200, along with various data describing the order details, such as the newly assigned order number. If not successful, an error status code along with error information will be returned instead. Now let me tell you about the specific data elements that must be included in the JSON request body for a port number request. The first 6 are required for all port number requests. That is, transaction type, external order number, service ID, properties, shopping cart, and the ship to, which contains our shipping information. The transaction type, port number, indicates that you wish to port this service asset over to a different carrier. The external order number is an order number, tracking number, or some other reference number that is generated by the carrier who provides the service. It's a helpful cross-reference back to that carrier's ordering system. The service ID identifies the specific service asset that you wish to port. The properties block contains the order properties that are used by the carrier to fulfill your order. It is important to know that the set of order properties for any port number order can vary somewhat between different carriers. For more information on that, please refer to our video entitled How to Obtain Order Properties. At a minimum, the shopping cart contains the catalog ID for the service plan that you wish to port to. However, sometimes you may also need to include the ID for a new device as well. This primarily occurs when your new carrier uses a different radio transmission technology for their network than your current carrier. For example, your current carrier may use CDMA, but the carrier you wish to port to might only support GSM. In such case, your existing device probably won't work on the new carrier's network, so you'll need to select a new one that is compatible. To get a list of eligible devices from which you can choose, you'll need to make an API call to the catalog/devices endpoint. When making this call, you'll need to pass the following 3 query parameters: transaction type, port number. This is used by some source systems to invoke business logic that is specific to this type of transaction. The service ID. This is used to filter the results to exclude the devices that are only supported by your current carrier. And the vendor ID. This further filters the list to only return devices that are compatible with your new carrier. Even if a new device is not being ordered, shipping information is still required. This is because a new SIM card is frequently required in order to support the new plan. The Ship To block contains a properly formatted delivery address, along with a flag to indicate if the delivery should be expedited. When a new device is being ordered, these last 2 data elements are also required in your request body JSON. The region ID, and this is needed to indicate the country in which the new device will be used. This is useful for validating the device selections to make sure that they will be properly supported where the user intends to use them. And the postal code, but this is only needed when the selected country is the United States. Some carriers have additional support restrictions that need to be evaluated. Okay, now let's go to the developer portal and see how to make a call to port one of our service assets to a different carrier. Okay, here I am in the orders endpoint. You'll notice that I selected the post tab, and I've already entered my authentication information as well as my request headers. These are identifiers that were sent to me by Tango to uniquely identify my application and my user account. So likewise, you'll receive those from Tango for your particular situation that you can enter. Now, if we look at the query parameters, you'll see that there's only one query parameter offered, and that's the confirm. In this case, I will check that box because I want to submit this as a confirmation before actually submitting my order for processing. And now we'll scroll down to our order request, and in here you'll notice that it's defaulted to the new activation order template. And this is really just to serve as an example to give you guidance in how to submit the request JSON for a new activation. In our case, we're submitting an order for a port number, so I'm just going to clear this out and put in a clean template that we'll build up step by step. Okay, the first item that we'll enter is our external order number. I'm just going to enter in a random string. This will have been provided to you by your carrier as a cross-reference back to their ordering system. So whatever number they provide you, you'll enter there. Our transaction type, which in this case we are doing a port number. And the service ID. And this is the service ID for the service asset that I wish to port. For this example, we'll assume that our new carrier will not support the cell phone that we're currently using. So we'll need to also select a new device from our device catalog. Therefore, I'll enter a region ID for the country in which I'll use that device. And since I picked the United States, I'll also need to enter a postal code. As I said earlier, the postal code is only required when the region is the USA. If you don't know the ID for the region you wish to select, you can use the /regions endpoint to get that information. The shopping cart block contains the ID for our new device and the ID for our new cellular plan. First, I'll add that device ID that I chose from a list of compatible items that were returned by the catalog/devices endpoint. And next, we will call the catalog/plans endpoint to obtain a valid plan ID. This endpoint offers a query parameter filter called compatible with device that makes it very easy to determine which plans will work with the device I selected. Depending on the plan that I selected, there are some additional optional features that may also be selected. The IDs for the features can be entered inside the optional features array. You can simply omit this property if you do not want to add any of these features. And lastly, if you wish, you can also select accessories for your new device. I'm not going to do that here, but to do so, just simply enter their accessory catalog IDs in the accessory IDs array. To get a list of accessories that will work with the new device that you selected, make a call to the catalog/accessories endpoint and enter the device catalog ID in the compatible with device query parameter filter. Next, we need to fill in the properties block. As described in another video on the subject, we used the order/properties endpoint to get the properties that were supported for this vendor and transaction type. I'll fill in this array with just the required ones, but you could also add any optional ones also when appropriate. I'll go ahead and enter my carrier account number, and then I'll skip down to enter my contact number. You might have noticed that the values for name on invoice, current carrier, and service number were already filled in within my template. These are default values provided by the backend source system. As such, when I made the API call to the order/properties endpoint to get these properties, the response that was returned already had filled them in within their text fields. And last, we'll fill in the ship to block. Please note that this must include all of the address components required for shipping to the country of destination in order to be valid. For detailed instructions on how to assemble these components, please watch our video entitled Shipping Information for an Order Request. So I'll enter my name. This is the name of the recipient, as well as our region ID, in this case the United States, and address information. And lastly, I set my expedite flag to true because I want it to be shipped in the fastest way possible, but please note that additional charges may apply. And finally, we'll click Post to submit this request for confirmation. And our request was successfully processed, so we see our confirmation response. Notice how our IDs were used by the source system to look up the related details and return them. An API consumer can use this response and present it back to their end user for them to verify. But specifically, let me point out just a few pieces of data. First, notice that the entire response is wrapped in a block named order confirmation. This is how we can tell we are in that mode as opposed to having actually submitted the order for processing. Next, we might notice that the source system was able to infer some valuable information from our login info, headers, and elements within the request body. For example, we see our account holder contains the employee detail records for the logged in user, which is also the person for whom the order is being placed. Then we see our cost summary block. This summarizes the one-time and recurring costs that are associated with the catalog items we're ordering. And below that, we see device. These are the details for our current device, not the new one that we are ordering. The new device details are found inside the shopping cart block. And next we see the external order number that we passed in with our request, as well as our postal code. And below that, we see our order properties. In addition to the IDs and values we supplied in our request body, notice that the response now includes the data type and a human readable label as well. This label is helpful not only for helping the API consumer better understand the nature of the property in cases where the ID might be a little cryptic, but they can also then display this information back to an end user so that they can easily verify that they're submitting what they're intending to submit. We also see the requested by block. Because I am placing the order for myself, the account holder and requested by blocks contain my own employee details. However, if we used either the XTNGO context employee ID header or the XTNGO context company employee ID header to indicate that we're ordering on behalf of a different employee, then the account holder block would contain that different employee's info, but the requested by block would still continue to contain my own info. We can use the /employees endpoint to locate another employee's ID number. And below that, we see the service block. Again, these are details for our existing service asset, not the new carrier's plan that we're ordering. And next, we'll see the relevant shipping information in the ship to block. And after that is one of the most important blocks, the shopping cart block. This contains all of the details describing the items that we're ordering. As you can see, all of the details are crucial for presenting back a verification screen to an application's end user. And finally, at the bottom, we see our transaction type, port number, and a status property set to success. Next, we'll scroll back up, uncheck the confirm box, and resubmit all the same information and wait for our response. Notice that our response is similar, but with two notable differences. The order ID identifier is very important to the end user, since it is what they will use most often to locate details or status about a pending or processed order. Also, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see the status property. It's now set to order submitted. The second difference is the shopping cart block. You'll notice that it's now been replaced with an order segments block. Often an order will be sent in one single shipment when it is fulfilled in entirety by one third party, but orders can be divided into multiple segments when they're fulfilled via multiple shipments. There's one more thing that I want to point out about the contents of this block. It includes a meta block that contains an href history URI to get a list of history events for this specific order, and an href shipments URI used to get the details concerning a specific shipment. Notice the order segment parameter at the end of the query string. This is the ID for one particular order shipment. And so there it is. You successfully created a port number order request, confirmed that order, and successfully submitted it for processing. If the source system has a workflow attached to this type of order, then it might be forwarded to a manager's approval queue or some other step. Using the order ID returned in the response, you can then make an API call for the order details and easily determine its current state. For greater detail about some of the areas I discussed, I recommend watching a few of our other videos, including the ones for setting request headers, obtaining order properties, and how to construct a shipping information block for an order request. Each of these videos provides helpful explanations of how to complete these particular areas of an order request. I hope you found this video useful. For more information and tutorials on other topics, we recommend browsing the Mobproc API video library at mobproc.tv and our documentation website at mobproc.info. That's all for now. Thanks for watching and have a great day.